Have you ever wondered how Node.js works? It's a powerful tool that's taken the tech world by storm. Node.js at its core is an open-source, cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment that executes JavaScript code outside of a web browser. This allows developers to use the same language on both the client and server sides of an application, streamlining the development process. Why is Node.js popular? It's because of its efficiency and speed. With its event-driven architecture and non-blocking I/O, Node.js excels in handling concurrent requests, making it an excellent choice for real-time applications like chat, gaming servers, or collaborative tools. Now, a brief history. Node.js was created by Ryan Dahl in 2009, and its growth since then has been nothing short of meteoric. It's used by giants like LinkedIn, Netflix, and Uber. From creating dynamic web page content before it's sent to the user's web browser, to collecting form data, Node.js has a broad spectrum of uses. So now that we know what Node.js is and why it's important, let's move on to setting up our environment. Ready to dive into Node.js? First, we need to set up our environment. The first step is installing Node.js itself. You can download it from the official Node.js website, and it's available for all major operating systems. Just follow the installation prompts and you're good to go. Next, you'll need a text editor. There are many options out there, but for beginners, we recommend something like Visual Studio Code or Atom. Both are free, and they offer great features that make writing code a breeze. Once you've got your text editor installed, it's time to configure your system to work with Node.js. This involves setting up your path environment variable, so your system knows where to find Node.js. You can do this in your system settings or via the command line if you're comfortable with that. Great job. Now that we have our environment set up, we're ready to create our first Node.js application. Excited to create your first Node.js application? Let's get started. First, open up your text editor of choice and create a new file. Let's call it app.js. Inside this file, we're going to write a single line of code, console.log hello world. This line of code tells Node.js to print hello world to the console. Now save the file and open up your terminal. Navigate to the directory where you saved app.js and type node app.js. Press enter and voila. You should see hello world printed right there in your terminal. So what just happened? Well, when you ran node app.js, Node.js read the file, found the console log command, and executed it. In this case, executing meant printing hello world to the console. And that's it. You just created your first Node.js application. Congratulations on creating your first Node.js application. Now let's explore how modules work in Node.js. Ever wondered how to organize your code in Node.js? Modules are the answer. Think of modules as individual building blocks. Each block or module contains a piece of code that serves a specific function. These modules are independent of each other, yet they can be easily linked to create a functional application. Creating a module in Node.js is as simple as creating a new JavaScript file. This file can include functions, objects, or any other code you wish to encapsulate. To make your module accessible to other files, you use the module export statement. Now, how do you use these modules in your applications? It's straightforward with the require function. When you require a module, Node.js reads and executes the module's file and then returns the module.exports object. This makes it easy to use functions and objects from one file in another. Now that we understand modules, let's use this knowledge to build a web application with Node.js. Ready to build a web application with Node.js? Let's do it. First, let's talk about routing. In a Node.js web application, routing is the way we define how an application responds to a client request for a specific endpoint. It's like a map that guides your app's responses to user interactions. Next up is middleware. Middleware functions are those that have access to the request object, the response object, and the next function in the application's request-response cycle. They're like the workers on an assembly line, each doing a specific job to get the request to its final destination. Now, on to templating engines. These are the tools that allow us to inject dynamic data into our HTML templates, creating personalized responses for each user. It's like a mail merge for your web pages, filling in the blanks with specific data for each visitor. All right, with those concepts in mind, let's dive into building a basic web application from scratch. We'll start by setting up a new Node.js project and installing the necessary packages. Then we'll create a server that listens for requests and sends responses. We'll set up routes for different pages on our site and create middleware functions to handle things like error checking and user authentication. We'll also set up a templating engine to generate dynamic HTML pages. We'll create templates for different parts of our site and then use those templates to send custom responses to our users. Finally, we'll test our application to make sure everything is working correctly. We'll start the server, navigate to our site in a web browser, and click around to make sure all the pages load correctly and all the features work as expected. And voila, you've built your first web application with Node.js. But what happens when things don't go as planned? What do you do when you encounter an error? Don't worry, we've got you covered. In our next segment, we'll delve into the world of debugging Node.js applications. Now you've built a web application with Node.js. But what if something goes wrong? Let's learn about debugging Node.js applications. Bugs can be frustrating, but don't worry, we've got you covered. When it comes to Node.js, there are a few common errors you might encounter. Syntax errors, for instance, can often be resolved by carefully scrutinizing your code for typos or misplaced symbols. Runtime errors, on the other hand, might suggest that something's off with your logic or system configurations. It's also important to get comfortable with debugging tools. The Node.js debugger, a built-in utility, allows you to step through your code, inspect variables, and understand exactly where things are going awry. For a more visual approach, you might prefer a tool like Chrome's DevTools, which provides a graphical interface for debugging. Remember, debugging is a skill that improves with practice. Over time, you'll develop an intuition for where bugs are likely to hide and how to squash them efficiently. With these debugging skills, you're well on your way to becoming a Node.js pro. In our next video, we'll discuss deploying your Node.js applications. Stay tuned.